guys, it's Intricate from AmigaLove.com. It's been a while since I made one of these videos, and there are multiple reasons for that, but the main reason is because I've been working on a project for a really long time, actually for years, now I think about it. I've been creating the beginnings of a software archive for Amiga content, stuff that had been made back in the 80s and early 90s across multiple buckets of disk type. The first one is disc magazines. Now, for years, I've been purchasing hundreds of discs that I am convinced are nowhere to be found online anywhere. And this is a giant piece of Amiga history, I believe, that is mostly forgotten. And it doesn't have to be. A lot of it will be just because of the nature of how people throw away stuff, and I get it. When it comes to disc magazines, these were things, at least in North America, that were all on disc. There was no paper magazine to go along with it. They looked like a magazine. They came with like a paper card in a plastic bag, and there would be usually 3 discs inside. Sometimes 2, sometimes 1, depending on the magazine, depending on the issue. These would have public domain, shareware, freeware, stuff like that. And they were curated, right? So it wasn't like a Fred Fish disc, which is like, here's 6 random things that he received during the month. These usually were going to be more targeted. These are just games, or these are going to be all about sound, or this one's going to be all about graphics, or Mandelbrot generation, or whatever. Now, I know a lot of people out there are thinking, well, isn't all this stuff on Fred Fish anyway? What a waste of your time. How many days of your life did you donate for nothing? Fool. Well, the truth is, a lot of these files and whatever, they're not on Fred Fish. Some of them are, maybe 40%, 50%, somewhere in that ballpark. But then the other half of them, you'll have never seen before. Or they are different version numbers, like later version numbers than what you might find in the Fred Fish archive, or on Aminet for that matter. A lot of this stuff is not on Aminet, or on archive.org, which, by the way, that went down recently. Did you guys see that? It was down for a long time. It wasn't like a day. It was like, holy smoke, it's still down a week later. What's happening? Well, because there's jerks out there. No matter where you go in life, somebody will try and break things just because they can, because they're jerks. Well, so that's why I think diversification is actually a good thing when it comes to some of these things. They shouldn't all be in one place. Because what happens then when that one place goes down, is attacked in a denial of service attack, or gets bought out, rebranded, or changed? I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but it could happen. You just never know. Crazier things have happened. Diversification of some of this content's not a bad thing. Again, these are disc magazines. These are going to be user group discs. So these were discs that, across all these little towns and cities across North America, including Canada, pre-internet days, most of the time, this was a way for people to get together, maybe at a library, or it may be at a small store inside their city, where they could, that probably sold some of this stuff, where they could get together and share war stories. Ways for people to better learn how to use their computers that were so powerful at the time, and share that knowledge, right? And actually make bonding friendships along the way. And a lot of times at the user groups, they would have someone who would be a librarian. And these were folks who would create usually a monthly disc with the name of the group. They would have all kinds of cool stuff on there, like scans from magazines. Let your imagination run wild as to what might be on some of those. Sound effects, programs, usually shareware, freeware, public domain stuff. Today, all of it's what I would call abandonware. But back in the day, they would give them these various terms. Freeware, obviously, nobody was expecting you to pay them anything. It's like, here you go. Public domain is kind of in the same ballpark a lot of times. The shareware usually was, okay, you can't copy this and share this on a bulletin board system without express written consent. And they usually meant literally written consent. And then if you sent them $10 or $15, they would mail you a floppy disk with the full version or the registered version or whatever. And you were then a registered owner of that program. So just, little side hustles for usually talented engineers that were interested in programming on the Amiga and creating tools for themselves, usually that they thought, oh, maybe some other people might find this to be interesting too. I found one from a guy that I think he was based in a town in Illinois, not far from Chicago. He had written an entire package of software for running his small business, which was actually a deli. And he needed ways to pay the bills for the store. He needed to find ways to track inventory that he needed to pull in and all of the various people that he had to pay on staff. And so he created all of these tools, and you get the whole kit and caboodle on a single floppy for your Amiga. So you can go run a business right now too in the same fashion, should you so want to, which I know you do. Stuff like that. And then a lot of times the librarians would, for the user groups, a lot of times the librarians would write newsletters. They would write newsletters about things that were going on in the club that month, or with Commodore, things that were about to be launched by GVP, all of this kind of stuff that nowadays you'd think, well, wouldn't you just go online and talk about it, or get on someone's Discord and chit chat about it? Yeah, you would. But back then there was no such thing. And so it was all about, this is a way to disperse more information. And if you missed last month's club meeting, you could go get the disc from the librarian. You'd pay probably a couple dollars to pay for the disc. They weren't trying to make money off of these things. And you could get all caught up on what everybody else saw when they went to the user group meeting in person. So really cool little snapshots. And there are so few of these. There are so few of these because most people didn't keep them. They would write on top of them. This is like a floppy disks back then. People thought, that's expensive. I might actually want to use that again. And so a lot of them got written over, or over time, thrown away, trashed, destroyed, whatever. So even though there were hundreds, if not thousands of user groups all over North America, there's not a whole lot of those artifacts of history left anymore. But I do have a few, and I've got them from places all over the country. I have a huge stack from, I believe it's Santa Monica, California. And they had the best name. All of these folks, they came up with the coolest names for their user group. This one was Smaug, like the dragon in The Hobbit. Smaug. I'm like, that is freaking badass. Smaug. It's like a stack of discs this high that I purchased off of eBay because I was hoping whenever I find one of these things, because I know there's at least 2 or 3 other people in the world that might find this project interesting. And it's probably not much more than that. But in this particular case, I'm like, I'm not even going to waste my time or the other 2 or 3 people to go browse through these discs. They don't have the custom newsletter that someone might have written, or even just weird random files like image files and stuff that I'd never seen anywhere else before until I put one of these discs in the drive. It's not worth it. So I have a stack like that from Santa Monica I'm probably not going to do. And I have another stack from Santa Barbara just up the street. Right? Not that far away, like an hour's drive up. It's kind of the same thing. Totally different people involved, totally different files involved, and maybe I do that kind of stuff later, but then I'll find I have like a stack that I was just donated, which is really cool, from a local friend in my club, the Seattle Commodore Computer Club, CCCC, or as they say in Spain, yes. He gave me a big stack of discs from the club from Tracy, California. Well, I was like, hang on a second, Google Maps, where? Because I did not remember where that was located. And I put those in the drive and started to look through those. Those are really, really cool. They do have people's, now sometimes it's even like personal stuff, like this is so-and-so's address. And I mean, guys, this is from so long ago. We're talking early 90s. I don't think any of these people, if they're still with us, they probably are not living at these addresses. This is just like this person, this is their title in the club, and sometimes these are some like places where they might have lived. But then they have all these newsletters of just little short documents, which I find completely fascinating, and just really cool little snapshots of what these users were up to, these user groups were up to with their Amigas at the time, and they've got these records of it. And the excitement, of what was coming out and what they'd seen, and stuff people had shared. And here's some files from the thing. And I was like, okay, I like that. And on the website, we can index these, and I can spit all that stuff out. And you don't even have to download these half the time if you don't want to. More than half, zero. You don't have to download these at all if you don't want to. You can just browse through them in your browser because I'm indexing that content. I'm unfurling it and exposing it so you can read it all inside a browser. I highly recommend, if you do see stuff in here that you think is cool, whether it's a program you want to run or maybe it's an image that you want to see on a real screen, I highly recommend doing that because a lot of the images you're going to see are going to be they're going to look squished. They haven't been stretched to fill a CRT and your screen, which is what these images are intended to do. They're not expected to be looked at, in landscape mode. They're supposed to be, that's the original art. And you're like, oh, that's a cool image of the Batman logo. Yeah, but it's not supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be like this. Like, okay, well then pull that one over and go check it out. And you might want to save it and put it on your hard drive and use it in a future project. You just never know. So why don't I walk you through the website briefly and show you how you're going to be able to find things and explore things for yourself. We've always had the forum and the games library where you can go read reviews about games that I've played and download the ADF files for those. But now is the new software section. And this is what it looks like, at least right now, when you load it up. A little bit of an intro. And then down here, these are the most recent things that I have added. The most recent ones being actual standalone individual disks. However, you can filter all of this stuff by either any of the main buckets that I was describing earlier, or even down by the year, which is maybe a little over the top, but as this grows over time, I do believe people are going to want to filter maybe by some of the earliest, or maybe even by some of the latest. And right now, in this main well, you can see what type of disk it is, whether it's the shareware or freeware. You can actually see down here, this is a user group. These are more user groups. As I continue to go down, now we're getting into some disk magazines. I actually started off doing disk magazines first. It looks like this is 28 disks. That's not true. This is 28 issues. So this actually has, if I remember correctly, it has over 80 total disks. But this is how many. This probably should be like a little magazine. Let's go into one of these, Amiga Animation. Really cool disk magazine that was based out of Maryland. As you can see, this was the publishing group. Kind of a weird publishing group because they actually were responsible for all three of these magazines. Right? Amiga Animation was their bread and butter main one that you could find, but they also had they did a split off that was just games because I think they found out fairly early on that a lot of people on the Amiga, that's all they cared about. That's all they cared about. But a lot of their users in the United States and Canada cared more about the Amiga than just games, and so this goes into all kinds of stuff. A lot of 3D and music production, sounds, all kinds of weird stuff you would use if you were doing broadcast TV work, and just all kinds of really cool creative stuff. All right, so let's go into this one. So this gives like a little info on the magazine itself. I might have written some of that. I might have copied some off the inside of a marketing mailer or anything like that. But you'll notice as you scroll down, well, here are all the collection discs. What does that mean? Well, go back in time because this is all based on how I uploaded it. And so I started off in the beginning with what I had. The earliest ones I had were Volume 4. I think I have every single issue from Volume 4. And so I just started to put them in there. And in fact, if I go back to the beginning, you don't have to do it the way I just did. You can just click on this and it'll resort them so that the oldest thing that I uploaded is now at the top, and you can work your way back in time. But you flip it like this, this is more accurate as to how I actually did it. I'll just jump down to page 3, and let's see, Volume 4, Issue 2. So this was really early days, and this was me looking at the back, which if I scroll down, here's the back. This is what a lot of sites will do. They'll just upload this thing, and you're on your own. It's up to you to just read a JPEG that's probably a little bit fuzzy to try and see what's on there. This is where I originally started using OCR software and transcribed all of this, and there were typos even on this thing. from time to time. What I was originally doing was I was scanning these. Now, this is ridiculous, but I was scanning these things. I was using Adobe Acrobat OCR software to find all of the text in the images and convert that to real text, and then copy and paste that as content for the page that would support that particular disk magazine and maybe the 2 or 3 ADF files that you could download for it. So then you could actually not just go look at an image and put all the work on you, the user, to figure out what's on these disks, but show you in real text and show Google the text as well, so that's now searchable through search engines and other things that are out there crawling all over the internet now, and make it so that people can actually find this stuff if you actually do know what you're looking for. Well, actually, what I learned pretty quickly was Adobe Acrobat in 2024 sucks. It still sucks. And their OCR software is terrible. In fact, this is weird, but if you use the standalone software, it's actually worse than if you use Adobe Acrobat Online. I don't know why, but it is not the same code. And you actually do get better results with Adobe Acrobat in a browser than you would if you were using their actual software, which is really dumb, but that's I found that out pretty quickly. But here's what's even better. ChatGPT. It changed everything. Why? I could take photographs of, say, the back of one of these things, or I would go open a README file. I'd go open a text file on the Amiga, and it would just be like four screens. So I'd take 4 pictures, upload those 4 pictures to ChatGPT. I'd say, and I've named mine Charlie, because you can name them if you want to. And I was like, Charlie, there you go. I was like, Charlie, stitch these 4 photographs together for me, transcribe the text that you see in the final image, and then format it nicely so that I can copy paste it. And it would come back, and most of the time, it was unbelievable how good it was. It was so much better than a high-resolution flatbed scanner with OCR software. It blew that stuff away. I'm sorry, Adobe Acrobat, but your days are numbered beyond reading PDF files. Oh my gosh. ChatGPT makes you look like something out of the Stone Age. It's unbelievable how much better it is. So that you didn't have to download some ADF file, you don't even know if it's going to have anything on it that you'd like. I can tell you what's on that disk based on what the original authors said were on that disk. It's really, really awesome. Then I can go one step further and I can unfurl one of the disks in here. Per issue, I can only index one of the 3. So I have to I usually just pick the first one, but if there's nothing interesting on it, I'll remove it and I'll go to the second one. So this right here is most likely disk 1, and it's showing you, so this is a text file that was on the disk, that is on the disk. It just pops it right in your browser screen, so you can read what's on there without having to go download the ADF if you don't want to. But if you do want to, is right here. You can download all of these, okay? Bring them local and do what you will with these files. But you don't have to. You can scroll down and kind of get the gist of what this issue was all about and get down in there, which is super cool, right? I mean, this is kind of funny. This is just like a little story that someone wrote. Dear Guru. Some of these are really, really long too. I mean, look at this. Oh, I'm passing stuff. So this is really neat. A lot of programs that people created for the Amiga back in the day were actual IFF files that they then, that they used as sprites or used as backgrounds in their programs. And all of that is exposed here. And so you can actually kind of see some of the stuff that's either for tutorials or parts of programs, like little bits and pieces. And so, yeah, here's something about the atom clock and a lot of the code. Sometimes when I see stuff like this, I'll actually go in and remove it because I figure who in the world is going to want to look at this stuff? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I have. I've gone in and actually pruned a lot of these things out. But yeah, look at this. This was written in 1990, June 3rd, for this thing called RAM speed. Just lots of stuff. I mean, these disks are filled, right? A lot of times we have no clue how much stuff is even on a disk because we're just like jumping into a program. But it could have all kinds of documentation that we're never exposed to. Well, now you can be, and a much easier way to get through it, honestly. But this is just one disk. there are 2 others on here, and they have a lot of stuff that they want to share too, so don't forget about them. All right, so there's an interesting example of a disk magazine. And I can go all the way up to software again right here. And I can just say disk magazine. What other disk magazines do you have? Okay, well, I've got Amiga World Tool Chest. I've got tons of those. I mean, I have a shoebox that's just filled. And I have, I think, most of them. So anybody out there that's super OCD and wants to like look at the entire list and make this list yourself and compare against ones that you have, feel free to do that. And if you have some missing ones, you can send them to me. Now, for these tool chests, I did not put the packaging here over and over and over because they're all the same. And so what I did was I just used these are actual photographs of my screen of the icons that you would see when you pop the disc in, which are actually really pretty. And there's a person, he's given credit at some point for having made all of these for Amiga World back in the day, and it's actually really cool. And here's a case where I found some text files on these and was able to create really cool content for each of these issues. So you can come in here and you can learn about what's on disc 1 and what's on disc 2 before you download it, right? Isn't that cool? And so there's just a ton. If you go into Disc Magazine alone, this is where a lot of the heavy lifting was. This is probably one of the neatest ones I've ever seen, and I only have 1 issue of it, which sucks. But it is absolute. Some of these disc magazines, you guys, it's shocking the amount of effort that went into just the icon creation for some of these. It is unbelievable the amount of work some of these people went through just to make the disc look fancy when you popped it in the drive. Really, really cool stuff. Let's look in here. See, now look. That is awesome. Look at the level. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Right there. They really had fun. I love this one with the discs in the drawer. As like, okay, let's just take these 2 icons and mush them together. That's kind of a neat idea. And then this was the card that came with it, right? Okay, wow, $10 in the United Kingdom. So they did sell it overseas. That's kind of amazing. But these were made in California, right? So they were shipping this one all over the place. That's kind of cool. Man, I always felt sorry for Canada too. When I was a kid, I was like, every time I would go to the bookstore, I was like, dude, what's going on, Canada? Well, I didn't understand, I didn't understand the conversion rates and stuff. So I was just like, why is everything so much more? Well, it's just different money. Different money, you idiot. All right, enough of that. Go back into software. So go back into Disc Magazine one more time, apply those filters. And then there they all are so far. And like I said, I'm gonna add jump disc. And I know there's a lot of other stuff that was created by magazines, like Amigo Times and the AX magazine. They had some really cool discs too. I just don't have a lot of those. I have some, but I just didn't want to create like, well, here's 2 and here's 1. These I had a bunch of. And I wanted to do AM News just because it's so awesome. You can spend hours. You can spend hours on this one alone when you go inside it and you grab these 3, which you should do. Okay, what else? Well, let's look at user groups and filter that. So here are the ones that I've added so far, and I'm going to have a few more in here by the time you guys see this video. Like of the Tracy, California for sure are going to get added, and there were some others from that region that I want to pop in here. But we'll just take a look at a few of these. So this is probably my favorite. The NCAUG. NC means National Capital. Unfortunately, they are the only one that didn't really try and make like a cute, funny sounding name that I've come across. It's very, very business. But, oh my God, look out, guys. Look out when you come in here. Make sure your mom's not walking around the corner. So I obviously did the old pull down on this so that we didn't see the entire image, but this is one of the files that you'll find in here. These are ham images. It actually has a slideshow. The ladies are not in the slideshow. A bunch of other graphics are. And this one is crazy. This one actually came on 5 discs. So each volume from NCOG, NCOG? Maybe it's NCOG. Every single one of these volumes is 5 discs. So you get a ton of stuff. It's really cool. And you look at the preview and look at some of these images here, you guys. Now, again, these are getting squished because they're not, what I should say is they're not being stretched properly. These are just straight up images that you're getting to view in your browser. But if you were to look at them on your screen on an actual, and in particular, these ones were NTSC, they look so much better, even though they look really cool here. And don't you want to have this on your Amiga? Come on, so you want to go download that. Some others. Just really cool stuff, guys. Really cool stuff. That people, and this is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorite paintings that was done. These are all deluxe paint drawings, and I just absolutely adore this one. I will actually put it on my screen sometimes just as like a screensaver and just let it sit there because it's so pretty. It looks so color. It looks like an oil painting. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And they're signed. You can see down in the corner. Some of these are not great, but they're still cool. And man, you know, I know we didn't get 10 marks art contest this year. Well, here you go. This will get your fill for now. And look, no one here was using really fancy dithering. They didn't really know anything about it. These were folks, I mean, this person kind of did. I actually like the fact that these are not trying to, you know, be like demo quality amazing. These are, like this one here, this was probably not done by anyone who had ever taken serious art classes before. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but there's almost like a naivete about it that I find just really kind of charming. Like this was someone's mom or dad trying to use their Amiga with deluxe paint and just using gray. 2 shades of gray and white, and that's, you know, there's no distortion in the glass or whatever. Who cares? It's cool. I think it's cool. Her poor neck. Oh my god, what happened? What happened? You know, that chair would not have been easy to do. It might not look great, but you know, this was probably really hard. So, and an actual 3D render. Now, some of the stuff in here, this is like you can see how squished that is. This was actually a Mac image. You can tell, right? That was converted. And so these are actually higher resolution images that'll make your screen flicker. All right, so there you go, NCOG. Some of these user group discs are hilarious and really cool. Really cool. And they're not online anywhere, except now they are. Now they are, everybody. Bunch of user groups in there. Shareware, freeware, what we got in here. So these are some of the individual discs that these are some of the last things that I've uploaded. Right, are these guys. I'm going to add more of these. Now, truth be told, this was not shareware, freeware. This is really more abandonware. But I went ahead and added it because I actually find it really cool and useful when you're trying to diagnose RAM issues. I probably wouldn't use it on a hard drive in 2024. It has, you know, RAM scanning and hardware scanning capabilities and diagnostics. I probably wouldn't use it on a hard drive these days, unless you're using a really old mechanical drive, then I probably would. But if you're using solid state stuff these days, I would avoid that. But for RAM, this is actually legit. I mean, it's really cool. I've actually found this to be handy on more than one occasion out of Pennsylvania. Look at that. Boy, where do you live? Kutztown? Okay, that sounds like a horror movie. Let's see. Yeah, so most of the goods, in my opinion, right now are going to be inside of these guys. But wait. I skipped over this one, didn't I? Well, let me show you. There's only one entry here, but holy smoke. Holy smoke. I have an enormous collection of devware. Devware out of San Diego. And this goes on forever. So what is devware? Devware you would order through the mail. They advertised extensively in magazines in the United States and North America, and they were usually trying to sell you individual discs. They weren't trying to send you discs every month. It wasn't like that. It wasn't a magazine subscription. It was, you were getting one-offs. And I actually hunted down and located the guy who founded this company back in the day. It was kind of sad. He was like, man, what a blast from the past. We thought Amiga was going to rule the world. We really did. And it just turned out not to be true. But he was all in on this company in the early 90s. And so let me jump back to the beginning. And these are themed, right? Unlike Fred Fish discs usually. These are themed, so you would be looking in the back of a magazine, potentially Amiga World or something like this, and you would see an entire page in teeny tiny little text about all the different discs that they had available and why you might be interested in purchasing one. And usually it was like, oh yeah, I totally need these disc utilities because this one's all about whatever the thing was that you thought you were into. They also had some standalone software that was not considered public domain slash shareware. These were ones that you would actually be paying, and this is one that I have an example of, the Piano Tutor. This was a standalone thing that in shrink wrap. I actually opened it for the very first time, just for you. And it had 2 discs inside it, and it was about teaching you the piano, teaching you how to play the piano. And it's so funny, it has this little booklet that came with it, which I didn't scan the whole darn thing, guys. I don't plan on it either, but if anybody really needs to see it, I can someday. But it was really interesting. It was basically trying to teach you the blues. Like, that was the style of music they wanted to use as the base for these tutorials. And actually, this little book, I don't even know if it's related to the programs that you were supposed to run and learn how to read music and play piano. It was kind of almost like, here's some music you can learn in addition to this. This Stan Breckenridge guy, he's around. He's actually still alive, and I believe he's a professor of music, and he's an actual musician, and you can find him on Twitter X or whatever. He's out there. Anyway, he wrote this book. I don't think he had anything to do with the software. I don't know how this all came together. Pretty cool stuff. A lot of the programs that are inside of DevWare are not in Fred Fish, and they are not in Aminet. They are unique to this archive, and it goes on, and these are discs I bought over the years and have been collecting. People sometimes on eBay think these are super valuable. Well, they're not, in my opinion, but I know why people put ridiculous prices on these discs. They do it because they know that, well, this is the only one out there. Yeah, it's the only one out there because almost nobody wanted it back in the day. But now we do. Check this out. Star Trek The Game. What's that? It's an actual, like, public domain game. It's actually kind of complicated to figure out how to even install it, but it's actually really cool and worth checking out. This one might actually be in Aminet now that I think about it, but most of these programs are not, and they are just so much fun. Now, these are all the fun discs. Oh, I should mention that. There's basically, in this collection, I think 3 types. There are the WB discs. These are Workbench. These are basically programs that you might use in Workbench, and that's mostly what I have. Then there's fun discs. Those are the ones I have at the end, and these are all games, just different types of games. And dude, Hack 1.03b. Guess what? This is the only version of it out there. It does not exist online, except right now, right here, right now, right there. And then the other one is dev discs, like this one, right? So yeah, this is all compression software, but for a lot of people, they need this stuff. And well, here you can get all of them all in one disc. That's pretty cool. So I actually think the disc magazines are kind of more and the user group discs that I've decided to share, I actually think those are more interesting to browse and read, but you never know. Sometimes there's like just really weird software you never knew you thought would be interesting until you saw it here and you thought, oh, that's weird. I wonder how that would look on my Amiga. Let's go check it out. Because you probably missed it back in 1991. Well, now you can. Now you can. So guys, that is the AmigaLove.com software archive. And it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to evolve over time. It's not static. I will continue to add more and more. A few more disc magazines that I want to add, like Jump Disc, and a few others that I know a lot of people have. Most likely they have copies of some of these things, but maybe you only have like 2 or 3 months. And I only have a few as well. I'm going to, honestly, if you've got stuff that you want to donate, you probably should contact me at some point. Just know that it takes time to do this, which I think are actually really important, beneficial to the community at large. So sometimes it's not all about views and clicks and likes and all that stuff. And sometimes it's about creating content in a way that's not about a video. Though there is a little bit of an Inception thing going on here because this is a video. And if you have a Parceiro, you could help. By the way, did you guys know there's a Parceiro for the Amiga 500 too? Oh, I don't know if I was supposed to. So there is a lot more planned for 2025, so stay tuned. There will be more really fun Amiga and Commodore content coming. But remember guys, keep that Amiga love flowing, and we'll see you next time.
AmigaLove.